let's start with what we know. The data suggests more Americans will be watching politics tonight than any other night this year. We can show you the stage already set in Philadelphia, where Trump and Harris face off for what is going to be their first meeting ever. Yes, they're both in politics, a former president, a current vice president, but they've never actually been in the same room. And they both face high stakes, as Nicole and I were just discussing. The last debate clearly had more pressure on Biden than Trump, and then sparked weeks of intrigue, which led to the president's unprecedented exit from the race. These two, this time, face a tight race. Trump and Harris are tied in current polling in the key states that could decide the whole thing, including Michigan and Pennsylvania. Harris has been marching through weeks of campaigning and often quite positive national coverage since she became the nominee in what happened in politics coming out of that last debate. But again, tonight is still different. And this is not just excitement, even though we are excited, we admit it, or news speak or nerd speak. I'm going to walk it through with you right now. Tonight is actually on track to be Kamala Harris's largest live audience ever. The Democrats' convention drew about 20 million nightly TV viewers, slightly more than the RNC. Her VP debate last cycle drew a whopping 58 million live viewers. Tonight's debate expected to surpass that and surpass the Trump-Biden debate of the summer. And maybe even surpass, according to some analysts, the 73 million people who came together and watched that 2020 debate, which was a big one and high stakes, and also, of course, during lockdown when more people were home all the time. But let me tell you this. Analysts are forecasting a TV audience tonight on par with the largest cultural moments across the history of modern American television, including back to eras where there were far fewer channels, there was no internet streaming, and people certainly weren't on their phones. For example, tonight could draw an audience that could upend this whole race, because they are saying it could draw more than the 76 million people who came together to watch the Seinfeld series finale live in 1998. And that comparison comes from the New York Times itself, which reports that the audience would rival those final episodes, say, of Seinfeld or Cheers, which drew a whopping 80 million, I can tell you, all the way back in the simpler media days of 1993. Those are huge numbers, as big as the biggest show ever about nothing. And tonight's debate is definitely about something. We are living through the time of the big lie and the failed coup, of political violence and crackdowns on human rights, of rising prices and choppy markets, of wars in Europe and the Middle East, all of the important things going on that also clearly have affected the electorate, a country that has been in a sour mood, which has faced the Biden administration even as its leaders and now its Democratic nominee, Kamala Harris, try to explain why so much of what's happening now was cleaning up for what they say came before in the Trump era. The electorate is aware of all of this, plus living through one of the most unusual election years in memory.
As a Democratic strategist put it, it's like running a 5K after riding a tilt-a-whirl. That's how he's describing tonight's showdown.
Hours from now, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump will battle it out on the debate stage.
Microphones will be muted.
I was even told by one ally that they had encouraged him to use facial expressions to respond, not to actually say anything out loud.
She's been having mock debates with an aide who's dressed like Donald Trump.
Regardless of which version of Donald Trump actually shows up on the debate stage, it is an opportunity for the vice president, right, to communicate her vision.
An opportunity, a clash, and a heck of a lot of pressure. As for the debate stage, we've seen both of these candidates' styles on display.
Our plan will bring health care to all Americans.
Nobody's done it, so we're cutting health care.
If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then have a conversation.
Such a nasty trust fund. Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
We need someone on that stage who has the ability to go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump.
That was the candidate then in the Democratic debates, Kamala Harris. Now she's doing that tonight for the first time. Now, as for the record setting this up tonight, Donald Trump has done general election debates in 16, in 20, and his primary debates. Harris has done one with Pence. Her time as a prosecutor does lend her more of an edge than many typical politicians, who you might have noticed can be quite long-winded after years serving in talking clubs like the U.S. Senate. But let's be clear as we head into this tonight, looking at the evidence and the record and why this is tough. Donald Trump has an edge that goes beyond even his times on this particular stage. Debates are a television experience. They are really a type of TV show with higher ratings than most other political programs and TV shows. And Trump spent his adult life in his own show, the actual reality show of The Apprentice, literally, and dozens of other made-for-TV and PR events and performances. Donald Trump oozes the quips and zingers that many politicians try to learn later in life. That's why Harris's own aides have been emphasizing Trump's experience as a debater, pointing out that he's done all those debates I mentioned, including the recent one with Biden, that he has more recent experience, while also hitting him for rambling speeches and lies. It's clear both of these people who face off tonight against this clear set of high stakes and a huge audience, both these people are strong communicators. They're going to lean into their strengths, as we've seen before. What we have not seen is how they may impact each other's performance.
It's unfortunate that we have someone on the stage who is attempting to be the Democratic nominee, who during the Obama administration spent 4 years full-time on Fox News criticizing President Obama.
I'm totally under-leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and we have a very, I built a great company.
I am the only person on that debate stage who has dedicated their life to reforming this criminal justice system.
New York, it's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. And when you talk about plexiglass...
If you got something to say, say it to my face. I know Donald Trump's type.
They have both been gearing up for this. And when you are up on that stage, you are alone. There is no teleprompter with stats or speeches. There's certainly no earpiece with any disembodied voice offering you tips. Some of the most high-performing competitors on earth still get their live coaching on the sidelines while they're on the field because it can help, because coaching works. So it's, again, as a level set here, worth remembering, these candidates are out there with no such staff help. The rules ban all of that, and they bar bringing even your own handwritten notes on the stage to maybe help your memory. That's something, by the way, that even very experienced speakers tend to bring when you give a public address, let alone 90 minutes up on a stage. The rules mute the mics, as you've heard, and require measures to reach the goal of a, quote, civilized discussion. Have you met both these candidates? One of them may struggle with that. Any coaching, though, will have to be finished before they step out on that stage alone, before the 9 p.m. start tonight. And we do know both candidates have tapped their own advisors for prep. Donald Trump using his campaign leadership you see here, as well as his longest-serving loyal aide, Stephen Miller, who's still very involved and served in the White House, and one of his most vocal and controversial defenders in Congress, Matt Gaetz. This is the debate prep team, and it shows you some clues as to the assertive style that Trump may deploy tonight. We can tell you Harris has prepped with a number of different experts. You see Karen Dunn, who's a top lawyer, who's also defending Google right now in a big high-stakes case. Reines there, who you see has played Trump before for Clinton, and some of the other people that she's relying on. These people matter because before the candidates do step out on that stage now, just under 3 hours away, they will be alone in combat, alone in the physical sense of the word, yet watched by 50, 60, 70 million people or more, plus the tens of millions more that will watch later in the clips that may or may not shape perceptions of these two candidates. So they'll do their final prep with these trusted teams, deciding on the strategy for this most watched, possibly most consequential battle of this general election season.